The agenda tonight, we're going back to 1979. We're going to be taking a look at Gordon Lightfoot, and he's going to be performing The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, we'll get Gordon up on screen, and there is going to be a link in the description below, so you guys can click on that link if you want to watch it the whole way through without me interrupting it, because I am going to be jumping in about halfway through. But let's see how Gordon gets on.
The legend lives on from the Chippewa down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. The lake, it is said, never gives up for dead when the skies of November turn gloomy. With the load of iron ore 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty. A big ship and true was upon the bitchwood when the gales of November came early. The ship was the pride of the American side, coming back from some mill in Wisconsin. As the big freighters go, it was bigger than most, with a crew and good captain well seasoned, concluding some terms with a couple of steel firms when they left fully loaded for Cleveland. And later that night when the ship's bell rang, could it be the north wind they'd been feeling? The wind and the wires made a tattletale sound, and a wave broke over the railing. And every man knew, as the captain did too, 'twas the witch of November come stealing. The dawn came late and the breakfast had to wait when the gales of November came slashing. When afternoon came, it was freezing rain in the face of a hurricane west wind. When supper time came, the old cook came on deck saying, "Fellas, it's too rough to feed you." At 7 p.m. a main hatchway gave in. He said, "Fellas, it's been good to know ya." The captain wired in, he had water coming in, and the big ship and crew was in peril. And later that night when his lights went out of sight, came the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
I'm just going to jump in here, because this is one of those songs that is all about the story of the song, and Gordon being such a master songwriter as well, and having such an influence on the whole folk scene back in the 60s, he's got that ability to turn a story that he read about here. And if you don't know the story, the Edmund Fitzgerald was a ship. It's actually a Great Lakes freighter vessel, so it was very big. As you can see from the video, the way that it's been put over the top of this live performance, you get an appreciation of the size of it. And sadly, that sank. It was caught in very heavy weather, almost like hurricane conditions, and sadly the 29 crew did perish in that tragedy. And this was the song that Gordon wrote about it, having read about it in a magazine. So it gives you an appreciation of his ability to turn something that he's read about, putting himself in their shoes and trying to write it from that perspective, but it's being so descriptive with it as well. And if you do get a chance to watch this original video, I would recommend it highly because you get the lyrics in the description underneath the video. So click on the link in the description below this video in order to go to it so you can read along while listening to the song. And the reason that it just stands out and is so clear that the whole story is because of the chord progression and how straightforward we are with a capo on the 2nd fret, as we can see here. So I will get the guitar out at the end of this video just to go through the chords and the lead guitar that's going on. But we have what would be, when you're playing in standard tuning, you're going to be playing an A. It's actually going to be an A sus2, and Gordon's playing a 12 string here, but if you're just playing on a standard 6 string, then it's going to be the same chords, the A sus2, down to the E minor, and into the G, and then the D. And that is going to be it for the whole song. The only thing that does change is the bass line. When we have the instrumental sections where the lead guitar comes in, the bass is just staying on A, and it's jumping from the A to the 5th and then the octave of the A as well. So it means that the chords change over the top of that A, but the whole song at that point doesn't move forward, and when we get back into the verse, when the vocals kick in again, the bass then moves with the chords. So it does separate those lead sections, and during those lead sections, it gives you an opportunity to listen to a different voice. The important thing about the lead is that we have the melody line of the song being played by the guitar, so it's like listening to another voice, and you have that really subtle change of the bass not changing when it has done previously in the verses. Another thing to point out is the dynamic change that we do have. After that first lead section from the guitar, the drums then kick in. We start moving forward a little bit more dynamically, opening up ever so slightly, but it's all about keeping those vocals at the forefront of the performance and listening to every word that Gordon's saying, because this is really an example of storytelling at its finest. Because if you were to look at the lyrical content of this song, we don't have a chorus that's being repeated where you get the same words, and you have so many words in this song. It is a story. If you're just reading the lyrics by themselves without any music, it is really the story of the Edmund Fitzgerald. There are no frills here in any sense, and vocally you can throw those in there. The fact that we've got very much Gordon's vocal sitting in that conversational space, the fact that we're around a B3 here as our top note vocally, so we're right in that baritone range. It's nothing that's going to take your attention away from the lyrical content by Gordon trying to hit really high notes, because they're not required, especially in this folk style of telling a story. Another thing to throw in is that from that compositional standpoint, this is a long song. We've got about 6.5 minutes worth of performance here, and there is no middle eight, there's no bridge, there's no key change. It is straight down the line with the same chord progression the whole time. So it shows how interesting Gordon can make a song and how engaging he can make it with so little in the way of chord changes and frills that take you to different places. This is all about the central journey that you're on in order for you to get your focus on those lyrics. And that's something that Gordon does so well, and he is so engaging the whole time. You can tell the audience here are just listening to every single word of this story. Having mentioned earlier about the Edmund Fitzgerald and the whole story, how Gordon came to find out about it, when he was writing this song, I have read that he struggled to put the lyrics down because he didn't want to write things that were untrue about the event because he wasn't there and he didn't witness it. But it was something that one of his friends, Lenny Warrenker, said he should just play to his strengths and write the story. And that is something that Gordon just has the ability to do, and certainly did with this song, putting all of the information in there and giving you such insight to something and taking you to a place to appreciate the story of the song. But given the fact that Gordon wasn't there, he's just imagining this, putting his own interpretation on the story and putting that into a song. It's amazing how the great songwriters can take another experience that they have read about and write about it in such detail. But let's get back into the performance and we'll watch it until the end.
Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? The searchers all say they've made Whitefish Bay if they'd put 15 more miles behind her. They might have split up or they might have capsized. They may have broke deep and took water. And all that remains is the faces and the names of the wives and the sons and the daughters. Lake Huron rose a burial sings in the ruins of her ice water mansion. Old Michigan steams like a young man's dreams. The islands and days are for sportsmen. And farther below Lake Ontario, it takes in what Lake Erie can send her. But the iron boats go as the mariners all know, with the gales of November remembered. In a musty old hall in Detroit, they prayed in the Maritime Sailors' Cathedral. The church bell chimed till it rang 29 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald. The legend lives on from the Chippewa town of the big lake they call Gitchaguri. Superior, they say, never gives up her dead when the gales of November come early.
And there we have it. This is one of those songs that was a huge hit for Gordon, and I think it got to number 1 in Canada, number 2 in the USA. I believe it got to number 40 here in the UK. And considering the event and what it's written about, I believe that this is something that Gordon wrote and has never made any money from this song because he's given it all away to the families of those that did die during that tragic event. And having this kind of connection with an audience, you can tell everybody's totally engaged, perfectly silent throughout the whole performance. We are going to take a look at the chords very quickly. I just want to mention before we do about the pedal steel guitar that's going on throughout this performance as well. It's really subtle, but it makes such a difference to filling out that sound. And we have got the 12-string guitar of Gordon's here. There's also the electric guitar and the bass, of course. Listen out for that. If you have got a sub, you can turn it up, have a listen to some of the bass lines going on, because it is really quite involved with the bass in this performance, and then that pedal steel just filling in so many gaps, but it's all just mixed in such a way that it's going to be below the vocal so that we can hear the story. So the chords that we want are, and I'm going to describe these as the shapes that you'll need in order to play them in standard tuning. But if you have got a capo, you can stick it on that 2nd fret if you want to play along with this particular performance. But we have this A sus2 down to the E minor, G, D, and the A sus2. And that's pretty much going to be it. So once you've got this, kind of like that. You might have noticed the way that I keep the rhythm going for the A sus2, the E minor, but then just did one strum on the G and the D. And the reason for that is it's the feel of the performance, because the bass is playing just the root notes on the G and the D and nothing else. So you get that elongated expression and different feel from those two chords, and that's why I did that. So to play that again. Kind of like that. And if you want to, you can throw in the bass line that's going on when we ascend up to the G, and that will include the G flat up to the G. So we'll have this. Like that. And I'll slow that down. That was just... doing that little run up. If you want to, you can take that first finger over. I just played it as a single note to exaggerate it, but if you want to keep the sound a little bit fuller, then you can keep the rest of your chord in there. And even then, it's automatic to get it to stand out, to get rid of the rest of your chords. So it depends how you want to play it. You can keep your chord there, or go like that. But it might not sound quite as clear as when you get rid of the rest of the chord and just have that into the G. It's up to you, but I tend to get rid of the rest of the chord there. So getting into the lead guitar and the notes being played, we've got a replication of the vocal melody going on here. So it means that, by the way, from a technique perspective, you want to have your high E string open here, and you're going to need to arch your finger over so that we can hear that, and we're on the 12th fret of the B string. So we've got this. Kind of like that. And hopefully you could hear that bend in there. This. Like that. Instead of playing it straight. But even playing it straight still works because of the melody. Using that vocal melody as the guitar lead really works well, and it is something that I have mentioned in the past on the channel about starting to write lead solos. If you have got a vocal melody in a song, it's great just to take bits from that vocal melody, put it into your lead and work around that and use that as your framework. So this is definitely, we've got something here. Just throwing in that bend makes it stand out, gives you something a little bit different, and the fact that we've always got that high E string droning out as well just fills in that sound. Rhythm wise with the lead, you want to approach it in exactly the same way as your main rhythm. So if I just do exactly what I did there, same feel, exactly the same directions that I'm going with that pick, but we're just doing it across 2 strings rather than across 6 or 5, depending on which chord you're playing. So we have this. Like that. And down at the bottom here, I'm just throwing in that first finger, which will be, if you're in standard tuning, the octave of your A, because we are going back to that A sus2. So it's just something to fill in the sound at the end. But a masterful performance here from a master songwriter, multi-instrumentalist. I do have another video on Gordon on the channel here somewhere, so you can check that out independently to learn a little bit more about Gordon Lightfoot. But thank you guys so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!